African civil society organizations have accused pharmaceutical giant Moderna of attempting to undermine the World Health Organization. This after the company filed several patents related to its coronavirus vaccine, despite pledging not to enforce the patents on its vaccines. This effectively derails the WHO's efforts to build African vaccine production. For more on this, I'm joined now by Health Justice Initiative Director Fatima Hassan, who joins me now via Zoom. So Fatima, just explain to me what you are taking issue with and what civil society broadly is taking issue with in as far as Moderna is concerned. So my understanding is they've got a whole lot of patents that they've either registered or are seeking to register in South Africa. How exactly does that then undermine strategies such as the Africa mRNA vaccine hub that the WHO and President Ramaphosa, among others, are championing?
Thanks. So it's really an outrageous situation where Moderna is not supplying their vaccines to South Africa, has not submitted its regulatory dossier here, but it has chosen to file a number of patent applications which have been granted, which they could enforce at any time. Now, you'll remember that Moderna said that they would not enforce patents during this pandemic, but they can decide when the pandemic is over and then decide to actually sue the hub or anybody else that is trying to replicate the technology, which is an mRNA-based platform, which is being developed and researched through the hub. Now, the outrageous element of this is that Moderna should actually be dropping the patents in South Africa, because in other countries, it has done that already. It has abandoned their patents, or their patents actually haven't been approved. And secondly, Moderna should actually explicitly cooperate with the WHO mRNA hub and actually share the technology and transfer the knowledge. So it's very difficult for the hub to operate in a climate of legal uncertainty, because the only conclusion that we can draw about why a company that is not making its product available in South Africa, not sharing its technology, but chooses to file patents in this particular context is because it actually wants to enforce its patents, and it could potentially sue for patent infringement. But the complicating issue here is that in the US, the Moderna is in a legal dispute with the US government around whose technology it really is, and late last year agreed that there actually is a co-ownership element. So there's a lot of legal uncertainties, and it's very difficult for the hub to operate in this particular climate of legal fear.
So from what I pick up then, you are saying that it's not a good idea for us to take them at their word when they say they will not seek to enforce these patents while the pandemic is still playing itself out. That means nothing. That assurance means nothing?
Definitely, because they can decide tomorrow or next week or next year that the pandemic is over, and they then decide to enforce their patents. So at a minimum, we're asking that the patents be suspended, or that Moderna should withdraw them as they've done in other countries. And really what we actually want Moderna to do is to come to the table and start supporting the hub that is based in South Africa for the benefit of all low middle income countries. And we really hope that the Biden administration and the US government actually calls in the CEO of Moderna and says to them that this is outrageous for a technology that is co-owned by the US government, for a company to exert such excessive IP protections in the middle of a pandemic doesn't make sense at all.
Is there a conversation to be had, Fatima, about the strength of our regulatory processes on our side? Because from what you are saying, in other countries, their attempts at registering these patents were rejected. But it seems there's a bit of an ease of doing things. Or is it merely South Africa being true to trade laws and intellectual property laws and the likes, and simply doing what we do in the ordinary course of doing business?
So I think the former, and I think you're absolutely right. We have a very excessively protectionist intellectual property regime. We do not know why the South African government and the regulatory bodies actually approve the patents, given, like you said, that in other countries the patents have been rejected or they've been abandoned. We don't have a mechanism where the public can actually oppose the granting of a patent before it is actually issued. That is something that the Fix the Patent Laws campaign has been calling for years, and that is the reform of our patent regime. And I really hope that this Moderna example and this egregious case of filing patents to try and undermine the work of the hub shows the South African government and parliament that there's an urgent need to pass the patent amendment bill and to create the necessary safeguards for the public to be able to oppose such measures in the first place. Now we've got extra work ahead of us because now we've got to file the necessary legal papers and actions to try and suspend the patent or to get them to withdraw the patent. Had there been an opportunity for us to actually oppose the granting of the patent in the first place, I think we would have been in a very different situation. It could also be, the question and the concern that we have, it could also be that Moderna decides that when they do want to enforce the patents in the pandemic, we have so much legal uncertainty that it jeopardizes the work of the hub. But where they try and extract certain concessions around licensing and around royalties. So really what we need is an urgent political resolution and for Moderna to come to the table with the WHO and the presidency, because Moderna could be forcing us into a situation where we may have to issue the first compulsory license in this pandemic. If it fails to drop its patents, or fails to suspend, the patent application in South Africa, we may actually have to pursue that route so that we don't jeopardize the very important work of the WHO mRNA hub in South Africa.
All right, Fatima, I'm completely out of time, so please just keep this really brief for me. I just want to understand what the actual concern is in terms of implementing this hub strategy. Is it that in the process of developing these mRNA platform vaccines for the wider continent, chances are we could have a situation where the technologies that are being developed at this hub and other centers that may come in future coincides with what Moderna claims is its patent, and therefore once they invoke their intellectual property rights, we may not be able to produce this to the scale that we would like to. Do I have my understanding correctly there?
You have it right, because it means then you would have to take other measures to try and make sure that that didn't happen. And also it would delay the work of the hub. So it means that it's going to take us longer to be able to do something to try and save lives, not just in Africa, but across, the global south.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights here on All Angles. That's Fatima Hassan. She is the Health Justice Initiative Director, talking to us there about issues to do with intellectual property, the issue of patents, and Moderna and the concerns of civil society.